All right, everyone, going to be getting into the main slate on DraftKings and FanDuel today. Just touching on the games. So the tough part about the slates that we have is we have a lot of games that are projected to be blowouts. And so if we just sort by the OF index, the top player on the board is going to be Porzingis. Now, why is that? Well, Bradley Beal is expected out. Kyle Kuzma is expected to sit as well. The issue with that is the reason we're getting this cheap price tag is going to be the simple fact that this game has the potential to be a blowout. And if it is a blowout, will Porzingis get 34 minutes? That's my biggest question. If he only gets 29 minutes, sure, can he hit value at 9.3? He can. 9.4 on FanDuel. But at the same time, if he's going to end up being really extreme chalk, and if we just sort by chalk, he is kind of up there, especially in terms of the studs. He's one of the higher owned players on the slate. So very interesting stuff there. But let's just go ahead and sort by the OF index again here. We can see Curry's popping up there as a pretty strong price point play going against Minnesota. That's going to be intriguing. Now, that game is expected to stay a little bit closer, but that one also has the potential to be a blowout as well, 7.5. That's when I personally start to worry about maybe a player not having as much upside as they typically would, although at the same time, the Warriors are the team that are favored in that game. So if they're going to be blowing out a team, it's probably going to be because Curry is going off. We also see Anthony Edwards coming in as a very strong price point play. Now, if we're talking about leverage, he is coming in at 2% projected owned. If that is going to be true, then he is going to be in a great leverage spot, especially in that game that, to me, is going to be a game that we kind of want to chase. 239 is a good number there for the game total. So it should be a higher scoring game. And if it is a higher scoring game, Ant-Man should be able to go off. Now we continue down. We got Jaren Jackson Jr. really pumping up as a good price point play. We like to see that there. Let's continue on. Any other kind of standout plays? Not too much. We have a couple of 7.5 Desmond Bane. We got Darius Garland, and we got Mikal Bridges. We got some players popping up there that are going to be good price point plays. Let's just take a peek at the FanDuel value here. Trenton Watford popping up there again. He's coming in pretty chalk. That's not, going against OKC, you kind of expect him to be able to go off and have a good game. Let's just take a peek at what he did last game real quick, because obviously they're extremely banged up. He is going to get the minutes. He had the minutes last game, 28 minutes in a game that was a blowout. Obviously, against OKC, we expect that game to stay closer a little bit. So if he does get, let's say, 33 minutes, let's check his projected minutes here. Coming in at 31.6 projected minutes. That game could be a blowout, and if it is, then he's probably going to be not a GPP winning play. He needs to get around 32 minutes, I would say. But the matchup is intriguing. The game hopefully stays close for long enough for him to get that little bit additional run of 32 minutes. And if he does, then this ownership is warranted. Maybe a potential for a fade. If it's going to be 58% on FanDuel, I could see the logic in fading him at that price tag. Like, definitely not a lock and load, but the chances of him breaking the slate are there. Now, if you are fading him, then you kind of have to play Eubanks here, okay? They kind of just go hand in hand. The Portland Trailblazers are so banged up that we just need to get some exposure to that team. They are so banged up. Whether it's Sharp, which if he's going to be getting the minutes, like, he seems like a lock and load play. I'm a little bit surprised he's not higher projected owned. We'll see. And then from there, like, Ryan, if he's going to be getting like 20 or so minutes, could be someone that pops up as a decent value price point play throughout the day. We see Keon Johnson was a really strong value play, and he's going to be someone that's going to be high owned. I can see the logic in playing him as well. So it does seem like a slate in which we are going to probably be playing a couple of Portland Trailblazers there as well. So continuing on, looking at the best DraftKings or FanDuel value, we can see Porzingis is popping up there. Marcus Smart's popping up there. Denny is popping up there as well for the Washington Wizards, only coming in at 13% projected own. And so that's a very interesting comparison. I would say the likelihood of like Denny getting, let's say, 35 fantasy points and Wofford getting around the same is very close. And it definitely shouldn't be this big of a difference. Now, I know there's not even like Denny is small forward and power forward eligible. Wofford is power forward eligible. So in theory, like, I would say this should be much tighter, especially in the fact that he's multiple position eligibility. Cameron Johnson went off in the last game. It kind of makes sense why he's popping up. Let's just take a peek at DraftKings value now, see if there's any differences. Not too much. Tillman's popping up a little bit more. Gafford's popping up a little bit more. Nothing too crazy there. And we do need to get news on Scotty Barnes. He is currently questionable. If he sits, that would make Pascal Siakam a little bit of a better play as well. Let's take a peek at the DraftKings projected ownership now. So Keon Johnson, I think we're going to play. Eubanks, I think we're going to play. I don't think the right move would be to play 4 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and just put in these 3 into the lineup right now to give you guys that first look build. So we're going to put Johnson in there. Probably going to put him in the shooting guard spot. I just think that's the correct move. And then we can put Sharp at the point guard spot. And then we have, let's just say, a center spot available. Eubanks, I'm perfectly fine with that. If we're doing that many, we almost kind of need to run it back with a OKC player. It's just which one do we run it back with? Does SGA have like GPP winning upside? We didn't see him really popping up there on the OF index as like a really strong, need to go out of your way to play type player. So kind of just interesting there. But I'm perfectly fine eating the chalk with those plays. Jalen Williams is someone that people are trying to get to, it seems like, because that game is a projected to be a close game. So interesting there. But the ownership, for the most part, is kind of spread out. Like, yes, Garland's popping up there. Mobley's popping up in a good matchup against Houston. That does make sense. But I kind of like the leverage that we could potentially get just around the board today. So let's see again, FanDuel ownership. Kyle Anderson really popping up there. He is coming in pretty cheap. I get that. Bane as well. You know, decent price point play. I'm fine with that. Reddish, Cam Reddish. Basically the same price on FanDuel. It makes sense why he's popping in as someone that's being high owned. So, you know, it does kind of make sense, the ownerships that we're getting. So let's go ahead and try to make a first look build here for you guys. So I do think we're playing Porzingis just right now in the power forward spot. That does make sense. We're kind of eating chalk, so we're going to have to get kind of unique on the bottom here. Like I said, Denny is coming in a little bit too low owned, I would say. And we still have a lot of salary left over to make kind of this first look build work. I don't mind the idea of Kevin Porter Jr., but if we're playing Kevin Porter Jr., it almost makes sense to go with someone like Jalen Green just because he's cheaper. And, you know, he's been a little bit hit or miss, but we had the potential to be getting 40 DraftKings points at a cheap price tag. Now, this is really predicated on if you are trying to play Garland and also Mobley, then you're probably trying to play Jalen Green because you're trying to get some exposure to that game. So I don't mind that idea. It's a perfectly logical approach to today's slate. But then we're going to have to get kind of unique in terms of a value price point play. Could play Wofford. I don't mind that. Jared Allen does make sense. Mobley makes sense. It makes sense to play one of those two, whether it's Allen or Mobley going against Houston. That's a very intriguing matchup. Jakob Poeltl coming in cheap. Let's see John Collins. He's coming in cheap as well. He's been highly productive lately. I don't mind him. And then the Spurs as well. Like, Zach Collins still seems pretty cheap. Now, I know in the last game he only had 23 minutes. That game was an instant blowout. And against Boston, we kind of expected to be as well. But we also had the potential to begin 40-point upside there as well. And let's just pull up his ownership on the OF Index and see what it is. Zach Collins coming in at 1% projected own. Yes, we are just chasing that then. We have 40-point upside at 1% at a kind of a cheap price tag. Like, what's the likelihood of Zach Collins going off for 40 and Wofford going off for 40? It's probably about the same. And Zach Collins has just done it more recently. Both games are games that could be blowouts, so they're not like lock and loads. And that's kind of the issue with them, I guess. And then we could go Kyle Anderson here. I probably would just try to chase some upside with Clay in a high-scoring game. Hopefully he gets hot. You know, that's really what we're chasing there. Maybe 40 DraftKings points out of him. But guys, that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to join Occupy Fantasy and get access to the tools, links are in the description below. You get access to that model as well as the lineup builder. We also have the link to the Discord chat listed below as well. All right, thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, good luck.